I, 23F, never thought I would be writing this post. 3 weeks ago, my world fell apart, and I still feel like I'm drowning. I met Rob, 25M, in our sophomore year during the fall semester. We were both computer science majors, and from day one, he stood out. Rob was that guy everyone knew, smart, confident, always surrounded by people who wanted his attention. He had this way of making everyone feel like they needed his approval, his validation. I remember our first real interaction. It was during a group project in our data structures class. Rob took charge immediately, delegating tasks and explaining concepts with this infectious enthusiasm. He seemed to notice how quickly I picked things up, and soon he was finding reasons to work with me. He would message me late at night about assignments, even though he clearly understood the material better than anyone. Looking back, I see how calculated it all was, but at the time, it felt special. Rob had a reputation in our department. He was the go-to person for help with difficult assignments. Professors praised his work, and other students looked up to him. He had already done 2 prestigious internships, and companies were practically begging him to join their teams. His confidence was magnetic. When he started paying attention to me, I felt chosen, like I must be special for someone like him to notice me. The flirting started subtly. He would lean close while explaining a problem, his hand brushing against mine as we shared a keyboard. He remembered little things about me, my favorite coffee order, how I liked my code indented, the music I listened to while programming. He made me feel seen in a way no one else had before. After 3 months of this dance, Rob asked me out. I still remember that day perfectly. We were the last ones in the lab, debugging a particularly tricky piece of code. He turned to me and said he had never met anyone who understood him the way I did. I was completely swept away. My friends were thrilled, especially Sarah, my best friend since freshman year. She thought Rob would push me to be better, to achieve more. The first year seemed perfect, or maybe I just wanted it to be perfect so badly that I ignored the cracks. Rob was attentive and loving when we were together. He would bring me coffee during late-night study sessions, help me practice for technical interviews, and talk about our future in the tech industry. But there were always these small moments that nagged at me, things I brushed off because I didn't want to see them. He would cancel plans last minute, claiming he had to work on some revolutionary project. Sometimes he would disappear for hours, not responding to my messages even though I could see him active in our department's Discord server. When I brought these things up, he always had an explanation ready. He was networking with industry professionals. He was working on his startup idea. He was building his portfolio. He made me feel needy for even questioning him. Looking back, the red flags were screaming at me. Rob would get oddly defensive whenever I asked about certain female classmates. He had this way of turning every conversation about my achievements into a discussion of his own potential. When I landed an internship at a major tech company, instead of celebrating with me, he spent an hour explaining how he could have gotten it too if he had wanted it. He would make subtle comments that undermined my confidence, always framed as constructive criticism or jokes. Sarah started noticing changes in me. I was always anxious about saying the wrong thing, about not being smart enough or dedicated enough. She tried to talk to me about it multiple times. She pointed out how Rob seemed to enjoy making me doubt myself, how he would manipulate situations to make himself look better. But I defended him fiercely. I told her she was jealous, that she didn't understand our relationship. I even stopped hanging out with her as much because I couldn't stand her concerned looks. Things started shifting dramatically in our final year. Rob became more distant, but in this calculated way. He would pull away for days, then show up with grand gestures and promises about our future. He talked about us moving to Silicon Valley together after graduation, about starting a company together, about how we would revolutionize the tech industry as a power couple. I clung to these promises, using them to justify the growing pit in my stomach. Then last Thursday, everything imploded. Rob called me at 11:30 p.m. His voice was different, cold, almost bored. He told me our relationship was holding back his career growth. He said he needed to focus on his future and that I was becoming a distraction. When I tried to understand, to ask what had changed, he cut me off. He said his decision was final, hung up, and blocked me everywhere: phone, email, social media, even our shared GitHub repositories. The past 3 days have been a blur. My roommate Emma found me curled up on the bathroom floor Friday morning, still in my clothes from the day before. She had to force me to eat, to drink water, to take a shower. I kept trying to reach Rob, creating new email addresses, calling from different numbers, even going to his apartment. But he had vanished from my life as suddenly as he had entered it. What makes this so much worse is that I still have to see him. We have 3 classes together this semester: advanced algorithms, software engineering, and our senior project seminar. That's 9 hours a week where I have to sit in the same room with someone who threw away 3 years of my life with a phone call. 9 hours where I have to pretend I'm not falling apart inside. Everyone in our department knows by now. I see the whispers, the pitying looks, the way conversations stop when I walk into the lab. Some people have reached out, but most are keeping their distance. Rob was always more popular, more connected. I feel like I'm losing my whole college life, not just my relationship. I wake up every morning feeling like I can't breathe. Did any of it mean anything to him? Was I just a convenient girlfriend while he waited for something better? How do I focus on graduating when my whole world has collapsed? How do I sit through lectures knowing he's in the same room, probably not even thinking about me? I need advice. Do I try to switch classes this late in the semester? Do I keep trying to get answers from him? How do I handle mutual friends asking what happened when I don't even understand it myself? Most of all, how do I stop feeling like such a fool for wasting 3 years of my life on someone who could throw me away so easily? Edit. Thank you all for the support. I'm trying to read through all the comments. Something happened today that I need to process, so I'll post an update soon. Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and I need to update you all because everything I thought I knew has crumbled even further. First, thank you for all your support and advice. I've been trying to follow your suggestions about focusing on myself and my studies, but what happened today has thrown me completely off balance. Remember how I said I had to see Rob in class? Well, I finally discovered why he really broke up with me, and it had nothing to do with his career or needing space. The truth hit me like a truck on Monday morning, and I'm still trying to process it all. I had been avoiding our usual spots on campus, taking different routes to class, eating lunch in empty classrooms just to minimize the chance of running into him. But on Monday, I was running late for advanced algorithms and decided to risk stopping at the campus coffee shop. That's when I saw them. Rob was sitting in our spot, the corner table by the window where we used to spend hours coding together. But he wasn't alone. Tori from our machine learning class was with him. At first, I thought maybe they were just working on a project. Then I noticed she was wearing his favorite gray MIT hoodie, the one he never let anyone else touch. They were holding hands across the table, and Rob was looking at her the same way he used to look at me. My hands started shaking so badly that I dropped my coffee cup. The sound made them look up, and for a moment, Rob's eyes met mine. There wasn't even a flicker of guilt or shame in them. Instead, he pulled Tori closer and whispered something in her ear that made her laugh. I ran out of there so fast I left my backpack behind. Emma had to go back and get it for me later. The hits kept coming throughout the day. Jenny, a girl from our program who I've worked with on a few projects, messaged me on Discord. She said she had been wanting to tell me something for weeks but wasn't sure if she should get involved. According to her, Rob and Tori had been spending a lot of time together in the computer lab late at night since last semester. They would always choose the workstations in the back corner, away from everyone else. Jenny said everyone in their study group had noticed how close they were getting, but no one wanted to be the one to tell me. I spent the next few days piecing everything together like some sick puzzle. All those times Rob canceled our dates because of project work? He was with her. The nights he was too busy to call? He was with her. While I was sitting alone in restaurants waiting for him to show up, while I was defending him to Sarah and my other friends, while I was planning our future together, he was building a whole separate relationship with someone else. The timeline started making horrible sense. Last semester, Rob and Tori were paired up for a major project in advanced machine learning. I remember being a little jealous but pushing it down because I trusted him. He started staying late at the lab more often, saying he needed to focus on this project because it could lead to a research position. I even brought him dinner a few times, but he'd always said he was too busy for me to stay. Now I know why. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, Blake from our database systems class approached me yesterday. Blake has always been on the periphery of our social circle, quiet, kind of shy, but really smart. He asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime, saying he had always thought I was interesting and wanted to get to know me better. He seemed genuine, and he's everything Rob isn't: thoughtful, humble, actually interested in what others have to say. For a brief moment, I was tempted to say yes. The idea of someone wanting me, especially now when I feel so worthless, was appealing. But something felt off about the whole thing. Blake and Rob had always been friendly, even though they weren't close friends. The timing of his sudden interest seemed too convenient. My instincts proved right this morning. I was cutting through the engineering building to avoid the main quad, where Rob and Tori usually hang out, and I saw Blake and Rob in an empty classroom. They weren't just having a casual conversation, they were laughing and looking at something on Blake's phone. When Rob noticed me walking past, they both got quiet really quickly. I decided to trust my gut and texted Blake a polite but firm no to his coffee invitation. Right now, I can't trust anyone who's connected to Rob, no matter how genuine they might seem. The whole situation has made me question everything and everyone around me. The hardest part is still having to see them together in class. Rob and Tori don't even try to hide their relationship anymore. They sit together in every class we share, their heads bent close as they share notes and whisper to each other. They act like they've been together forever, like the past 3 years of my life meant nothing. Meanwhile, I'm trying to focus on lectures while feeling like I can't breathe. My grades are starting to slip, and I can't afford that in my final year. I've started sitting at the back of the class, keeping my head down, trying to make myself invisible. The few friends I still had in the department are either taking Rob's side or avoiding both of us entirely. Some have even suggested that I must have done something to push him away, as if that would justify his behavior. Every memory from the past 3 years feels tainted now. Every sweet moment, every promise he made, every time he told me he loved me, was he thinking about her? Was he comparing us? Was I just a convenient placeholder until he found someone he actually wanted? I keep thinking about all the times he told me I was being paranoid or insecure when I questioned his late nights or canceled plans. He made me feel crazy for doubting him, all while he was actively betraying my trust. I won't let this destroy me though. I have 1 semester left, and I need to focus on graduating. I've blocked both Rob and Tori on everything, and I'm doing my best to avoid places where I might run into them. But I can't shake this feeling that there's more to this story that I don't know yet. Something about the way Blake and Rob are acting today makes me think this whole situation is even worse than I realize. Update 2. I need to write this update while my hands are still shaking, because what I discovered today has completely shattered any remaining doubts about Rob and Blake. My instincts about them were right, but the reality is so much worse than I could have imagined. Last week, I was pulling an all-nighter in the computer lab, trying to catch up on the work I'd fallen behind on. Around 2 a.m., Blake came in. He seemed surprised to see me there but acted friendly, setting up his laptop a few stations away. Around 3 a.m., he went to the bathroom, leaving his laptop open. I wasn't planning to look, I'm not that kind of person. But his messenger was open, and Rob's name caught my eye. It was like my body moved on its own. What I found made me physically sick. I had to run to the bathroom to throw up. Their chat history went back months. They had planned everything. Everything. Rob had told Blake exactly when he was going to break up with me, down to the hour. Blake's job was to wait exactly 3 days, then start showing up wherever I was, playing the nice guy role. They called it Operation Rebound. They had it all mapped out. Blake was supposed to be the perfect contrast to Rob, quiet, supportive, a shoulder to cry on. They had even analyzed my class schedule to figure out where Blake could casually run into me. The coffee invitation wasn't spontaneous, they had planned it weeks in advance. They had a bet going about how quickly Blake could get me to go out with him after Rob's breakup. But it gets worse. As I scrolled through their messages, I found links to a group chat with several other guys from our department. They called it the Players Club. These guys treated relationships like a sport, complete with points and rankings. They shared details about girls they were manipulating, traded tips on how to make girls feel insecure and dependent on them, and bragged about their conquests. I saw messages about me from throughout our relationship. Rob would share things I had told him in confidence, moments I thought were private between us. They mocked my trust in him, joked about how I never suspected anything when he was seeing other girls. There were detailed strategies about how to make me doubt myself, how to isolate me from my friends, especially Sarah. Then I found the messages about Tori. She wasn't special to Rob, she was just the latest target. They had a system where they would build a girl up, make her feel secure, then systematically break her down. Rob had already started laying the groundwork to do to Tori what he did to me. Blake was lined up to be her shoulder to cry on too when Rob eventually dumped her. I managed to take pictures of everything before Blake came back. I spent the rest of the night reading through 3 years of conversations, feeling more disgusted and violated with each message. It wasn't just about cheating, it was calculated psychological manipulation. They had been doing this to girls since freshman year, keeping detailed notes about what worked and what didn't. I debated what to do with this information for days. Part of me wanted to expose them to everyone immediately, to warn every girl in our department. But I knew they would try to paint me as the crazy ex-girlfriend, bitter about being dumped. So I decided to be strategic. I created a new email account and sent Tori the screenshots, especially the ones where they discussed their plans for her. I expected her to ignore me or call me jealous. She did, at first. She sent me a scathing message about how I was pathetic and needed to move on. But then Rob made a mistake. He fell asleep with his phone unlocked while Tori was at his place. She saw the group chat herself. She saw how they talked about her, the plans they had for her, everything. She confronted Rob about it, but he tried to laugh it off as just guys being guys, just locker room talk. That was his big mistake. Tori didn't keep quiet. She started asking around, and other girls began coming forward. It turned out Rob and Blake had done this to at least 6 other girls in our department. Each story followed the same pattern: Rob would date them while secretly seeing others, then Blake would swoop in to pick up the pieces. The whole thing has exploded in our department. Girls are warning each other, sharing stories, comparing notes. Several of us have screenshots and chat logs. Rob and Blake's reputation is in tatters, and they deserve every bit of it. I'm still processing everything. Part of me feels vindicated that everyone knows the truth now, but mostly I feel angry. I'm angry at Rob and Blake for their calculated cruelty. I'm angry at myself for not seeing through their acts sooner. But most of all, I'm angry that they probably did permanent damage to some girl's ability to trust. They turned something as vulnerable as love into a game, and they didn't care who they hurt along the way. Update 3. This will be my final update because I'm finally ready to close this chapter of my life. The past month has been a whirlwind of revelations and changes, and I want to share how everything ultimately played out. Tori broke up with Rob 2 weeks ago after finding even more disturbing chats between him and Blake. The messages weren't just about their plans to manipulate her, they were actively discussing which girl Blake should target next after Rob ended things with her. They had it all planned out, down to how long Rob should wait before starting to act distant and cold. When Tori confronted Rob about these messages, he tried to blame everything on Blake. He claimed he was just playing along to fit in with the guys, that he really cared about her. But Tori had seen enough. She forwarded all the evidence to every girl mentioned in their chats. By the end of that day, 5 more girls had come forward with their own stories about Rob and Blake's manipulation. The fallout in our department was massive. One girl, Maya, revealed how Rob had dated her during our first year, using the exact same playbook he used with me and Tori. Another girl, Jen, shared screenshots of Blake trying to comfort her after Rob ghosted her last year. It was the same pattern over and over. Rob would build girls up just to tear them down, while Blake waited in the wings to pick up the pieces. Several of us went to the department head together. We showed her the evidence of how Rob and Blake had created a hostile environment for female students in the computer science program. Their behavior had actually caused 2 girls to switch majors last year. The department took it seriously. Both Rob and Blake were asked to complete their remaining courses online and were banned from campus events. I switched all my class sections to avoid any chance of running into them. My grades have started improving now that I don't have to deal with their presence. Some mutual friends have reached out to apologize for not believing me sooner, admitting they had noticed red flags but didn't want to get involved. I'm polite but distant. I've learned a lot about who my real friends are through this. Sarah came by my apartment last week. We hadn't really talked since I pushed her away for warning me about Rob. She didn't say I told you so or make me feel worse than I already did. She just hugged me and said she was glad I finally saw the truth. We spent the whole night talking, and it felt like getting a piece of myself back. The whole experience taught me more than I ever wanted to know about trust and self-worth. I'm not jumping into another relationship anytime soon. I need time to rebuild my confidence and learn to trust my instincts again. But I'm also not letting Rob and Blake's actions destroy my faith in everyone. I've seen how the girls in our department have supported each other through this, sharing stories and warnings, creating a network to protect each other. I'm graduating in 2 months, and I already have a job lined up at a tech company in Seattle. The distance will be good, a fresh start away from all the memories and drama. Sometimes I still get angry thinking about those 3 years, about how they turned something as personal as relationships into a sick game. But I'm trying to see it as a lesson learned. I'm stronger now, smarter, and I know exactly what red flags to look out for. Rob and Blake can keep playing their games, but they'll find it much harder now that girls are warning each other about them. As for me, I'm done being anyone's pawn. I'm focusing on my future, my career, and most importantly, on trusting myself again. Thank you to everyone who supported me through these updates. Your advice and encouragement helped me find the strength to expose the truth and move forward. This chapter of my life is finally over, and I'm ready to write a new one, on my own terms.